We all respect how our parents and grandparents survived the Great Depression. They did what they had to do to get through an unimaginable situation. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Some of the money rules that helped families survive back then don't work the same way today. In fact, following some of them without questioning them can quietly make modern money problems harder. Today, I want to walk through 17 Depression-era money myths. Where they came from, why they made sense then, and what needs to change now. Let's talk about myth number 1. The idea that avoiding credit is always smart. Avoiding credit once meant safety. Debt was dangerous and unpredictable. Today, never using credit can actually hurt you. No credit history can block housing, insurance savings, and basic access. The fix isn't reckless borrowing. It's intentional use. Credit is a system, whether we like it or not. Being invisible to it doesn't protect you. This one comes up a lot. Myth number 2 is the idea that all debt is bad. During the Depression, debt was often a trap. Today, not all debt is the same. High-interest debt creates stress that compounds. Low-interest planned debt can sometimes support stability. Here's what that looks like in real life. For everyday spending, I use a rewards card and pay it off in full every month. No balance carries over. For larger purchases, I may use a low-interest or zero-interest card, pay it off within the promotional window, set auto pay, and then stop using that card. That's not ignoring risk. That's managing it. Here's myth number 3. The idea that keeping cash at home is safer than banks. Cash at home once felt safer than banks. Today, cash that sits too long quietly loses value. I use the banking system, and I also keep cash at home. Not a lot. Enough to cover about 1 month of basic expenses, excluding the mortgage or rent. It's there for emergencies, when quick access matters more than returns. That trade-off is intentional. This is one people avoid. Myth number 4 is the idea that we should never talk about money. I know many people who never talk about money. They try to figure everything out on their own, not because they don't care, but because they think struggling quietly is responsible. Silence cuts people off from ideas, plans, wisdom, and resources they didn't know existed. Talking about money doesn't mean oversharing. It means learning instead of isolating. Another common belief, myth number 5, is the idea that hard work solves everything. But effort alone doesn't protect people from systems. My husband and I worked for the same large aerospace company. If you were hourly, it didn't matter how hard you worked. When layoffs came, they posted a list. If your hire date was on it, you were laid off. After that experience, I always had a backup plan. Not out of fear, but realism. People hear this one all the time. Myth number 6 is the idea that staying with one job forever guarantees security. Long-term loyalty once came with security. Today's economy is more contract-based and temporary. My husband served over 30 years combined in the military. When he reached a certain age, we were told it was time to retire. Even though his enlistment had time left, we were given only a few months' notice. We lived in base housing. That meant deciding where to live, how to transition, and what came next, quickly. Stability today comes from adaptability. Let's talk about myth number 7. The idea that owning is always better than renting. Owning isn't always better. It depends on the chapter of life you're in. A lot of people assume their retirement is tied to their home, and a home can absolutely be part of that picture. But relying on it alone carries risk. If home values drop, that plan can shrink quickly. Renters can still make strong long-term decisions. They can invest consistently in the stock market, build dividends, and grow wealth in other ways. When you're new to an area or unsure where you want to settle, renting buys time and flexibility. This one comes up a lot. Myth number 8 is the idea that paying the smallest debt first is always best. Paying off the smallest balance feels good. That win matters emotionally. But if that debt has a low interest rate, you often save more by paying off the highest interest balance first. Interest doesn't care how motivated you feel. Awareness matters. Myth number 9 is the idea that cutting more is always the answer. For most families, that's no longer true. Budgeting used to be enough. Prices were stable and expenses were predictable. Today, budgeting alone doesn't stop rising costs. It helps you see the problem, but it doesn't always solve it. What helps is focusing on the expenses you can control the most. For most families, that starts with food. We've already talked about ways to save on food in previous videos. In the next few videos, I'll walk through practical ways to stretch food without cutting quality. Here's myth number 10. The idea that avoiding all risk is the safest choice. Avoiding all risk sounds responsible, but understanding your own risk tolerance matters. A good place to start is higher interest checking or savings accounts. They allow growth without unnecessary stress. Some people explore options like high-yield bonds with measured risk. The goal isn't avoiding risk. It's choosing risks you actually understand. Another assumption people make. Myth number 11 is the idea that the cheapest option saves the most money. Cheap doesn't always mean affordable. I bought a cheaper non-stick cookware set because it looked good. It worked well for about 9 months. Then it didn't. The higher quality option would have lasted longer and cost less over time. That's the difference between cheap and value. Let's talk about myth number 12. The idea that food is just another expense. Food once meant survival. Calories mattered more than quality. Today, cheap food often carries hidden costs. Highly processed food can lead to health problems and medical bills that don't show up in a grocery budget. Food affects energy, focus, and long-term health. Food isn't just an expense. It's part of staying well enough to keep going. This one shows up a lot online. Myth number 13 is the idea that good families don't ask for help. I've seen families wait too long to ask for help. By the time they do, the damage is already done. Evictions, repossessions, and fees that could have been avoided. When I was laid off early in my career, I had savings and paid ahead, but I still called my loan company to ask about skipping a payment if needed. I didn't need it, but it left options open. Asking early prevents problems. This one sounds logical at first. Myth number 14 is the idea that your worth is tied to your paycheck. A paycheck reflects what a system pays for, not a person's value. Many essential roles don't come with paychecks. Tying identity to income creates shame during layoffs and transitions. Your income is a tool, not who you are. Let's talk about myth number 15. The idea that if you can't pay cash, you shouldn't buy it. Sometimes, life doesn't wait. When we installed a pool, the yard damage couldn't sit unfinished for months. We used a zero-interest card, budgeted the payments, paid it off in 8 months, and never went past the promotional period. That part matters. Zero-interest offers are designed to trap people who miss the promotional period. Use them carefully or don't use them at all. Another common mindset. Myth number 16 is the idea that a job will handle retirement. Some careers still offer pensions, including military, government, and federal employment. For most workers, a job alone doesn't cover retirement. Retirement works best when it's layered. Employer benefits help. Personal savings matter too. Depending on one system alone is risky. Relying on a single system assumes nothing changes. And history tells us that's a risky bet. And finally, myth number 17. The idea that if parents prepare their children well, they'll make it on their own through hard work. That belief made sense in the past. Wages stretched further, housing was affordable, and the path into adulthood was clearer. Today, many young adults are working hard and still struggling to get ahead. Preparation still matters. Hard work still matters. But the world they're stepping into is more expensive and less forgiving than it used to be. That's why planning has to work in both directions. Prepare your children for independence and prepare yourself for stability alongside them. I hope this helped. See you in the next video.